Hello, I am Pramod Kumar. Today we will study English, Class 12, CBSE. The book is Flamingo and the chapter is the interview written by Christopher Sylvester. This chapter is about interview as a communication genre. The dictionary meaning of genre is style of literary or artistic work. So the theme is interview as a communication genre, as a style of literary or artistic work. Interview is an artistic thing. Before we go ahead, I will request you to jot down my website https://sites.google.com view pk-edu home. You can go to the site and find lot of reading material for yourself, well explained chapters, meaning of hard words and question answers, whatever I have been able to provide. After some time we will rub it off. Please jot down. Okay. So, this chapter is in two parts. In the first part, the writer Christopher Sylvester discusses about celebrities, how they see interviews. So in the chapter, he mentions so many celebrities, well-known people, and many of them consider interviews as an intrusion. Intrusion means encroachment, as if somebody is encroaching upon their privacy. So, several instances he has given of his interactions with several celebrities. It writes, the chapter writes, opinion of the interview, its functions, methods and merits. They vary considerably. Why do they vary? The functions, methods and merits of interview vary considerably. Why? Because interviews are conducted by so many people. Means interviewers, and interviews are conducted for so many interviewees. So what happens, since very large number of people are involved in conducting the interview and very large number of people are involved in getting interviewed, so the methods, the functions and the merits of interview vary, and they vary very considerably. Some people may make very high claims regarding interview. They may say that it is like a source of truth. Others may even say it is an art. But what do we need to do? We need to be careful. Interviews may not be a source of full truth. Interviews may not be a perfect art, because as we discussed, the functions, the methods and merits of interviews vary, and they vary very considerably because large number of people interviewing and very large number of people being interviewed across the globe, right? Many a times celebrities see themselves as victims. So why it happens? Why does it happen? That celebrities see themselves as victims. Generally celebrities are very much deprived of what? Of privacy. They are well-known figures, known by so many people. So they find it very difficult to lead a private life. So many of them see interviews as, see that they are being victimized by being interviewed. They feel they are victims. And many of them may despise means, you may say hate or look down upon. They may despise as unwarranted intrusion. As we had talked, unwarranted intrusion, avoidable intrusion into their lives. These celebrities feel it diminishes them. It reduces them, diminishes them. How does it diminishes them? They feel victimized, undergoing the process of interview, and they may despise interview, right? So they feel that interview process diminishes them. Many of them have talked about horror of being lionized. Now what is this? Horror of being lionized. Lionized means the process through which a person is treated as a lion. The interviewer treats the celebrities as a lion while interviewing him or her. So that is why they call it horror of being lionized. The celebrity feels that the interviewer is treating him or her as a lion, not as a normal human being. The writer mentions Rudyard Kipling saying, interview is immoral. It is a crime and it merits punishment. It is immoral, right? It's a crime. So since it is immoral and a crime, it merits punishment. Rudyard Kipling further says, no respectable man would ask it, means no respectable man would ask for an interview and much less give it, and fewer people should be there to be interviewed. Rudyard Kipling says, once again you try to understand, no respectable man would ask to be interviewed, and there must be much lesser number of people who really give interview. They hate it so much, they despise it so much, right? Then the writer mentions about H.G. Wells. You know the world famous writer H.G. Wells. He says, H.G. Wells said, the interviewing ordeal. H.G. Wells used the word interviewing ordeal. Ordeal means harassment, putting somebody to lot of pain, right? Then H.G. Wells also said, interview is like thumbprint on his windpipe. Suppose somebody puts his or her thumbprint here, windpipe, and presses it hard. So H.G. Wells feels that interview is like thumbprint on his windpipe. He feels suffocated. When somebody is interviewing him, he feels suffocated. He cannot breathe. Right? But the writer writes, despite all these kinds of drawbacks, interview is a supremely serviceable medium of communication. It's a very nice medium of communication. Only thing, it should try to get rid of its drawbacks. And then he says finally that through the medium of interview, a piece of information travels through the globe within no time in today's world. And another thing he says towards the end of the first part of the chapter, interviewer holds a position of unprecedented power and influence. Interviewer holds a position of unprecedented means which has never happened before, power and influence. Then the writer moves to the second part of the chapter. Second part is equally interesting. There we come across an interview conducted by Mukund Padmanabhan of The Hindu. The Hindu is a publication, newspaper also comes, The Hindu. Mukund Padmanabhan is the interviewer, and the interviewee is Umberto Eco. Umberto Eco is a professor at University of Bologna, Italy. Eco is a professor at University of Bologna, Italy, and he has received a very formidable reputation, very strong reputation for what? As a scholar for ideas on semiotics. Semiotics. What is semiotics? The study of signs. S-I-G-N-S. Semiotics is the study of signs. S-I-G-N-S. He has got very good reputation. Right? He says, when the interview starts, the interviewer, Mukund Padmanabhan, asks him, people feel surprised that you have written so much within such a short period of time. And you have written 5 novels with 20 or more non-fiction. So, Eco immediately corrects him. This, he says, this is more than 40 non-fiction. Then he asks, how you are able to write so much? Then Eco gives a very amusing response. He says, I make use of interstices in time. So what is that? He says, interstices are spaces, empty spaces. He says that if you remove entire space, empty space from the universe, you can hold the entire universe in your one fist. If all space is removed, the entire world can be held in a fist. So he gives an example, Umberto Eco, to the interviewer. When you are coming to meet me through the lift, in that space of time, interstices of time, I write one article. Are you getting me? Umberto Eco tells the interviewer, when you are coming through the lift to meet me on the 3rd floor, by the time that you come from the ground floor to the 3rd floor, I make use of interstices in time and I write an article. Right? Which is very unusual for others. And he says, I am more of a professor and I write novels on Sundays. He says, I am more of a professor and I write on, I am a professor who writes on Sundays. Then the writer asks him, your novel, The Name of the Rose, it sold more than 10 million copies. 10 million is equal to 1 crore. Umberto Eco had written one book, one novel, The Name of the Rose, and that book sold 1 crore copies. Then Umberto Eco responds, interviewee, that see, the population of the world is 600 crore. I am able to reach 1 crore people. So I am reaching a very small portion of the people. Very small portion. Out of 600 crores, 1 crore I reach. Then the writer tells him that this novel is a serious novel. Right? It's not a light novel, which contains metaphysics, theology, and medieval history. Even then, despite it being a serious novel, it has sold more than 1 crore copies. Then Umberto Eco explains very easily. He says, it's not that people want to read light things, or it's not that people always want to read light things. Sometimes people do like to read serious things. What does he say? He says, it's not that people like to read light things, and it's not that people like to always read light things. So he says that people do like to read serious things also. That's why he has been able to sell. And Umberto Eco also said there could be a likelihood that had I published the book 10 years ago, earlier, or 10 years later, maybe that it would not have sold 1 crore copies. What does Umberto Eco say? He says there could be a likelihood that if I publish the book 10 years earlier or 10 years later, which book? The Name of the Rose. Maybe in that case it did not sell 1 crore or more copies. He said maybe it could happen. So this is the chapter about, and I am sure despite all this, interview is a very, very important communication genre, and interviewer holds very strong influence and power, and despite drawbacks, interview is a supremely serviceable medium of communication, and the information that we get through interview may be available to the world within a few moments. So that way it's a very strong and effective communication genre, right? I am sure you would have liked this. In case of any query, please do approach me on my email ID, which will be available on the thumbnail, and you can visit my website and you can see the chapter in detail along with words, meanings and question answer. Thank you very much.